Hopefully you guys can hear me, and it's not looking good. I'll tell you what I'm expecting. Just trying to figure out what one where YouTube is not playing up the way it should. I can't see my screen on YouTube. Just want to make sure that works. Close that. Okay. Got a few people on. All right, guys, welcome aboard. And it sucks, doesn't it? Let's look at the charts. Across the board, all red, 10%, 13%. And these are all the margin trades. So it would be nice to be shorting some of them. Okay, let's start. Hopefully you can all hear me. Let me just clean up a few of these things on the chart. Moving averages just makes it a bit of clutter. And I'm going to talk about the big picture at the moment. What's going on with the big picture. And let's see which chart I should use. Give me a sec. So this chart makes more sense to me. Let me just flip that around a bit. Cool. There we go. So if I clear this chart, you can see. Now, should I change the background to black? I'm not sure. Let's see how we go here. So this is my master chart, and I'm going to filter it out a bit. Just bear with me. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and I'm just going to clean it up a bit. And what I'm going to explain, and I did this to my private group yesterday, actually. I think it was yesterday. And I spoke about the scenario and the strategy for what could take place, and if it's taking place, where's your exit zone. So basically, if we were to, let me see where this is first, just clean these up, and I'm just going to give you a story here. What we had here before, I'll clean these two up. The previous top here, as many of you know, if you watch my previous streams, we had this wedge formation, and you can see it has a lot of confluence with this sideways channel, macro channel. So if I was to do this, you'll see the channel that I'll put in there. Give me a sec. I'll put in the daily for now, just so you can understand the perspective. It's a tool, just a logarithmic curve tool, and it does the job. So what I did is I looked at the confluences in there, and I subdivided a lot of the channels here. So I don't need this anymore. Actually, I'll just leave that there. Give me a sec. All right. So basically with this channel, we worked out the middle section of this channel. And I've spoken about it a few times. This middle section acted as resistance. Actually, that's not the right one. Give me a sec. I'll come back to it later. But anyway, let's go on with the story. So what we had is an ascending wedge, and then we had this right shoulder with a an ascending wedge, a micro one. And the price structure basically told us that when price comes up, finds a resistance. So we had those 3 resistance tops, and you can count them as A, B, C, D, E, and then a drop. This turns out to be the left shoulder, this turned out to be the head, and this turns out to be the right shoulder as a complex formation. So there's easy head and shoulders and there's complex head and shoulders. And I apply those same principles. So if this was a neckline, the target was down here, and it worked perfectly. Here is something similar as well. So I looked at it from that perspective. And so let me see where that formation is. Okay. And what's this one? Okay. So that was the head and shoulders. So we measured the top of the head to the neckline, and it came down all the way there, which was the target. Similarly, if we were to do the same, and I'll just walk through it. I'll just open it, close it, open up a bit more so you guys can see it. I might actually increase the browser size so you can have a better, clearer look. So it's not so small on your screen. So what we had is a similar thing, in my opinion, but not as clear as that. So we had this ascending wedge. Maybe overperformance, but that was an ascending wedge. The second part to this, like I said, is the right shoulder. Okay, this is, so far, it's playing out the same thing. If we were to look at this as the left shoulder, this is the top of the head, and this is the right shoulder. Now working out the neckline. The neckline's a bit complicated. It could be horizontal, or it could be on a slight angle. What we have at this point is potentially just a flat neckline. So that either way, if I was to grab this, what I had it here, if I grab that and bring it down here, that's the target. Okay, if this is going to be head and shoulders. So the neckline, this is a critical spot. Here I also have, and I'll just remove that. In the past I said this was a broadening wedge. Okay, and once we broke that, we had this upside. So this bottom formation is a broadening wedge as well. And this is a long story, but yeah, that was a broadening wedge. And we had our ABC then and so on. And the break above this neckline is important because it was, as you can see, low resistance along the way. And when it did break it, it did a retest and went up. Now we got, and there's, here you see on the way down, we had a retest and went back up. Now we touching it again. Either we're going to have a small bounce and then go down, which I think is going to happen. So if we were to get a bounce, definitely there's a shorting position around here. Somewhere around there, there's a shorting position. If it makes it that high, and that's the hard part. They're going to short it. People are going to short this because this has broken the trend. And so we've got lower lows and higher lows and 2 consecutive deep dumps. So this dump here wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable with it because there was no, doesn't look like there was any delay, any stoppage on the smaller time frame. So if we to look at this from in detail, you can see here, this previous dump, there is no support. It just dumped. Shows their weakness in there. So that was a bit of a concern. And now we've got this breakout, breakdown of the wedge, and you can see there was as soon as it broke down, that I might do it perfect, but this wedge is legitimate. So if I was to get this, that trend line, you can see a typical retest of effort and a rejection, and then a big dump. Now, what caused this is another story, and we're at the mercy of the markets, the bigger, broader market. So Bitcoin is behaving with a sell-off. People are, few factors coming in. People are selling off, and once they sell off, I think it's not a bear market. Don't get me wrong. In the short term, it's bearish. Now, let's leave that for a sec and go to the US dollar and the SP 500, just to give you a background. So this is a 4-hour chart on the SP 500. If I was to make it on the daily, you can see a long-term trend has been broken, pretty much. So this is causing jitters for a lot of people. It did. So this area was really, there was a real battle here. There's a real battle here to make it go up. So it tried and it got rejected at that level, as you can see. So the SP 500 is going down. The question is, was it likely to go down too? On my left, we have the US dollar. And I posted something yesterday on the US dollar and my thoughts about the US dollar. So let me just broaden that. So I'll come back to this chart on the right. Let's look at the US dollar, because the US dollar is causing a lot of the issues. So if we look at the US dollar from a bar, what do you call it, inverted bar perspective, if this was a massive trend line that has confluence, so what we're going to do is have a closer look. And you can see if I was ever so close, it has legitimacy. So I pinned that there. I had a look at that line. I go, all right, just put it, make that line there and see what it does. To me, right at this point, it seems to be legit. So when we look at the US dollar, and you can see how we've got 3 double bottoms and the price has gone up. This was my macro. I've got two formations here, a height, and I just basically applied it. And so it has confluence with the resistance level. So the US dollar is going to be hopefully rejected at that level. Let's have a closer look. So sometime today I did post this, and you can see I use a wick there, and you can see there's a bit of rejection from that red box. And this blue one actually made the target from this structure. And so it's a bit of an odd shape, but this blue section is very strong resistance. And now the question is, once it hits there, I do think it's going to get a pullback. So if I was to get rid of that for the time being, just clean it up a bit. You can see pretty much it's a nice support. It's bullish, right? So this is going to pull back and potentially another support level. And then the battle is going to happen. Now this is roughly a triangle formation. It's either going to break down this way, or it's going to break up, and then it's going to find resistance here. And then we'll see what happens. It could come back down. It could be a bit of a fake out. But I think what it's going to do is it's going to come back in, but after it hits that top, I think it'll come back down. I think that's what's going to happen up there. So I think It will break out to the upside, maybe not. It doesn't matter. What it's telling you, it's bullish. It's a bullish area. And so whatever takes place, it's going to be concentrated in this area. While this goes sideways, I wonder what Bitcoin's going to do. Hopefully this doesn't go up any higher anytime soon, so it gives some relief to the markets. But what I think what's happening is with the general markets is the stocks are dropping, so they're going to the US dollar. Yeah, there's a flight to the US dollar, and that's why the US dollar is going up. And some people blame China for it with that big, real estate firm, $300 billion $300 billion of debt. Some people say it's related to that, market jitters. But I do see definitely money going into the US dollar, and the US dollar is going up when it should be going down. Shit. Fiat constantly printing, but that's where they're doing. I'm not sure what other stocks there are that they're going to fly, but that's what's probably causing the problem. So the US dollar at this point, we need to keep an eye on because it's at a level where there's resistance. And so you can see along here, there's a lot of resistance before it breaks up. And you can see when it does break up, there's another level of resistance. And that's why I got this blue line here. So it might break up, just pull back and then break up and come back down again. And then reassess. Then it might just find support or continue out. And that will give us a good excuse for the Bitcoin market or the crypto market to continue on. So that's what I have in that sense. With the SP 500, like I said, when there's a flight to the US dollar, the stocks drop. Listen to one of the guys, Alicio. He's got 2 reference points where he said in 2021, end of 2021, or maybe 2022, there's going to be a bear market at a major scale. So there's a few indicators that say that. But this year, he doesn't think it's going to happen. So he said maybe an 8% pullback. So if we were to look at 8%, somewhere down here, potentially. So this market could pull back. And if it's going to pull back, I'm not sure what Bitcoin would do, but it's not a good sign. So we can play with those ideas. If we were to use that for the time being, 618 is looking like it's got support at this impulse at the moment. So we need to keep an eye on how this goes. There's a bit of a support, as you can see. The wicks come in. But on the bigger picture, let's play with that. Let's see what else Fibs gives us. Confluence, anywhere confluence. So to me, there's going to be a bit of a strong support here. So maybe it will come down. So we have the ABC type of thing. Correction. That could be a minor correction. And the deeper correction will be that will be A, B, and a deeper correction. Maybe if we do the 1 point the fib extension, depending how it is, it could come down to this pocket here. So what does that mean for Bitcoin? I think Bitcoin will also pull back, and I'm going to talk about where it could potentially pull back to. So let me have a look at what you guys are looking at. Turning your drawing tools on and off like. Oh, thank you. All right, so you might learn something. BTC is just back at a support area, getting screwed. Yes. So let's go back to our chart and let's have a look at what's going on. So definitely, if I was to clear all this up, actually, I'll just get rid of all those writings and let me just do this. I just want you guys to have a clear picture as to what's going on. And where's that? Okay, we can get rid of that. Now you can see my lines of confluence there's a lot of confluence in this, all right? You might pick up some stuff. So you can see how just a bit of overperformance. You can see this neckline. What I did is there's a few methods I use, and along here you can see there's a lot of interaction, support, resistance, support. I feel like it's going to come down there. Now, what else is there? This red line. Now, I want to see, I can't recall where I got that, but let's have a look at it. Let's look at the 12-hour. That could be my weeklies. Oh, give me a clue where I did. Okay, they're major fib levels. That's what it is. So if I was to get a fib, just to give you an idea, swing low to swing high, and you can see wrong setting on this. Give me a sec. Okay, so you can see how when the previous top is the 1.618 extension. If we use this channel and these fib extensions, you can see that this red line, give or take a bit, I had it down there before, is a strong support area. And so if I get closer, in conjunction with this sideways movement, so did I get rid of anything there? Give me a sec. So you can see that there's going to be a lot of confluence for a good bounce. The 414 actually looks perfect right there. It's already done that, and it's got a bounce. So interesting enough. So let's get this line in a bit closer. So when we get in there, I could. Where's that? I'm going to show you a few other angles as well. So okay, that's actually that turns out to be perfect as well. So now what we got, so from the top to this bottom, it's also the 0.382 level where the 414 is, 1414. So this is a very strong level, and I think it justifies for a bounce. Okay, so we got this based on from swing high to swing low, we got this fib level. And from the macro level, from the big picture, we got the 1.414 extension, which is pretty much resistance there, resistance there, resistance there. Now it's going to act like support, a bit of resistance. So this line is very strong. And so we need to hold this. There's one bullish perspective, and as I said, it could bounce and potentially make a triangle and then back up again. But it really depends on what the US dollar is doing, what the markets are doing, but I'm not that hopeful for this. You can decide on that. Just give me a sec, I'll go close the door. The kettle's going off. So to me, this line, this blue section is very important. Even though this line is important, this blue section to me is much more important because it's on the macro channel. And it's been proven over here and over here. Now we got, so when we look at fibs, we look at the horizontal levels and we need to look at the trend line. So to me, this section is very, very strong. Hopefully the head and shoulders doesn't play out. But if the head and shoulder does play out, it's going to come down to this next fib level here. So we've got resistance down here, support down here, and therefore this section here, you can see a few fibs coming into play, the big picture fibs. And if we were to measure the head and shoulders on that one, if this was the level, then we could pretty much, actually it goes further down, doesn't it? So it might be just a wick, comes down here for a quick touch, which is justified because this area is also a demand area, and then probably regain and then keep going up. So if the head and shoulder does play out, it makes sense for a number of levels to be resistant. So that is another good level there. So we've got a lot of things to factor in what the potential could be. Here you can see when this was dropping, this was absolute head and shoulders, because as it's coming down, you can see at each trend, at each fib level, there's a reaction to stop it. And obviously, whatever support levels here, like this was, I was expecting this to be support, right? There was a neckline. I expected a bounce. It didn't. So I remember buying in this area, and I go, okay, I'll short it. And so there, I short it from that point onwards. I was expecting a bounce. So it was a big macro head and shoulders. The question is this going to be the same? And it's very hard to tell, right? So you can see how this plays a fair bit. So I will take each level on its own. So at the moment, it's a good bounce. I bought some ADA on that line because ADA seems to bounce up very high quickly. And I'm not going to take on many coins. It just becomes a headache. But that's what I got at the moment from an explanation perspective, what this is likely to do. So if this is a left shoulder, head, and right shoulder, and this is potentially the neckline, maybe this is the neckline, then it's not as a big one. And let's see if this fits it. Okay, that makes sense as well. But I don't think that's the case. I think that's a neckline right here. I think that's the neckline. And if I was to move that so far qualifies as a neckline. And if I was to measure that top to the neckline and just double it, it does come down to this fib level. And if we were to stretch that out, it does make sense because there was previous resistance there, previous support, and so on. I don't think it's going to come any lower. I don't think it's going to come that low. And this price is about $35,000, which makes sense because it's in the middle of this level here, right there. So this was a resistance on the way bouncing, and similarly a bit of support. So I think it might go down to $35,000, $36,000 potentially, and that's what I got at the moment. Any questions? Do you think? Do you look at Camira pivots and CPR pivots? CPR I do use, so the monthly CPR, the weekly CPR, but that's just, I suppose I use it on a smaller time frame. Right now, we've got historical data that gives me that information. So if we were to try that out, let's look at the CPR and see what it does. Give me a sec. It would be good to see what the CPR tells us. I'll use a monthly CPR. and I'll actually get rid of this macro structure. Where is it? Master. I'll get rid of that. Let's see what the monthly CPR does. It didn't come up for some reason. Why isn't this coming up? I'll close it up. Doing something weird. It's not working for some reason. I'll use the weekly one. While we do that, let's look at the indicators. So yeah, clean slate. You can see how that works, just from a horizontal level perspective. Don't know why my CPRs aren't working. It's not even deleting it. That's weird. Okay, so let's have a look at the daily, and I want to see my Phoenix. So the Phoenix is pretty much downward pressure, as you can see. It's a good indicator. If I was to use this Phoenix, when these cross over, it's pretty much a signal to the downside, crossing over, and when it goes to below 50%, which is there, perfect. I'm going to actually get rid of that and get rid of that. I'm just going to add one RSI with some moving averages. If it comes up, for some reason it's struggling. All right, guys, give me a sec. I'm just going to close that. I'm having some issues here. Give me a sec, guys. Looks like my machine's just not doing its job. How's that? Just bear with me, guys. I think my machine, Chrome's cacked it again. And what's this one? Hate Windows. Power usage, okay. Let's see if this is going to do it, guys. I might lose. Hopefully you guys still on. Sorry, guys, but something went wacko. Still streaming? Yes, all right. Let's do that again. Load. I'm going to close a few charts. have I got there? Wrong chart. That's better. Let's go back to my Bitcoin chart. Right, so where we were. Sorry guys, but I lost a bit of focus there with the machine. My browser just stuffed up. So let's look at the big picture again. So what I want to do is, if price drops down here on the bigger picture, there's a chance obviously it can go down further. And I got this formation. So if I think this formation, which is a triangle, and if I was to just move it out a bit, it can be potentially something like, from a bearish perspective or a bullish perspective, this is the hard part. This could be my A, B, C, D, and E could be anywhere here. E could be there, down here, and so on. So this is a massive, as you can see, it could be a massive continuation pattern or bull flag. So there is a good opportunity, you know how we, so let me talk about this. We have on-chain data that says pretty much indicates that it's accumulation time. Big money is coming in and there's accumulation. There's no doubt about that. So the fact that it's dropping back doesn't mean the bull market's over. So the question is, how do we trade this? You can trade this. If you've got cash, I would wait for it to drop a bit more, potentially. But there's going to be a point where we have to come back in, and it could be, like I said, this range. If this head and shoulders plays, this range is a good spot for the E, and you can see how I got E, or that I got this pivot line. All right, so if I use this as a reference, that's one pivot point, and potentially along that line, point E has a lot of confluence with this dotted line as well. So if this was to drop, it makes sense. But this little pocket, to me, makes sense. And it's confluent with that level there. Like I said, 35, 36 grand. So it meets that structural formation. You know what I mean? So you've got massive support there and potentially another big double, you know, it's almost like a double bottom. So this is a round top, fair bit of resistance. This was another round top, fair bit of resistance. And this is, you know, roundish on the bottom. Potentially this is going to be the same as well. So we're going to have a bit of a battle there. You know, that's what I'm thinking. So if it's actually better that it does pull back, because what happens is big money comes in. So if they're averaging in, this is where they're going to really accumulate and go in there based on the on-chain data. So that is my strategy, waiting for it to come down with the money I got left over. I did sell just a bit, some of it over there. Wasn't sure, just played it safe. Sure enough, it's helping. I just hope the general market doesn't stuff that up. So yeah, looking from a macro perspective, let's have a look at it from a different chart. All right, so let's look at on Binance. Let's see what my Binance chart has. Okay. It's clean. So what I want to do is I want to look at the indicators now. What does that, we talked about price action from many perspectives. And for those that haven't seen this chart, I'll do it so some of you can learn some Elliott wave methods so you can see how that works. Golden ratio, even by this method, but I just want to put it that way. As you can see, the lessons learned, if that's the top, that's the bottom, reference 1, 0, you got the main fib levels, golden ratio, resistance, the 414 hopefully might do the job. All right, like I said, it might just have a triangle, and if they can hold it for a week or two, if we can hold it there for a week or two, great. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. We need to watch it. Like I said, if it's an accumulation period, then this could obviously might not play the head and shoulders. I didn't want that. Defaults. I hate these. It's got a mind of its own. So let's look at the indicators. So on the weekly, let's look at the weekly, what it says. What I want to do is add that. I'll get rid of this MACD. Oh, sorry, fib. I want to put the MACD in it. And I want to put the RSI that I like. RSI, golden ratio, this one here. Okay, so let me just fix this up, guys, while you look at it. And don't want that. Don't want that. Actually, I'll make that red. Thick. No, that's not what I wanted. Where is it? Where is it? Here, that's the one. Okay. And I missed out. That. Cool. I'm happy with that. So, from the weekly perspective, let me just stretch that out. We can see that the red RSI, even though it crossed over, there's a crossover here, crossed over there on the Phoenix. We have a bullish sign there with the MACD, and what we want to see on the RSI is the 50% holding its level. So it's not dropped below that yet. So it's ever, takes a week, but it's still bullish, right? We haven't changed the weekly trend. And based on this red RSI, it needs to be down to 50% to go bearish for a bearish market. So if you look in the past, whenever with this indicator, so if it goes below 50%, you can see our price drops heavily. Similarly here, with the green and the red, we have a down direction. And similarly here, when we cross over down, we have a bear market. And then everything else is below 50%. When it goes above 50%, we have a bull market. So this indicator is still, the red is still up there. It needs to come all the way down. And the way this is happening, it's probably going to start turning up with bullish divergence. So we'll see how that goes. But on the weekly, we're still pretty good. Here, the RSI here pretty much says it's above 50%. So that's pretty good. And so is the MACD above 0. So the weekly is pretty good. If we look at, say, 3 days, or 3 days, let's say what the 3 days shows us, somewhere in between. Now, this is where it's a bit bearish, 3 days. So I'm picking from a 7 day, I'm picking 3 days as a middle ground. And we've got the MACD crossing over, and it's got 1 day to go for this candle to close. So for the 3 day, we need this. We're going to see 1 day more. What happens to that? And the MACD might just not cross over. It might just open up. So similarly, this RSI has come below the average, moving average, just below it, dipped above. So it's really struggling to give us a direction. And so is this. On the 3 day, it hasn't gone below 50%, neither has the red. So it's not that bearish yet. Now we'll go to the daily. We'll see what the daily does. And obviously the daily is going to be a bit of a disappointment. So the daily has a downward pressure on this one, definitely. And you can see perfect, like I couldn't plan it any better. It's perfect wick right on this bugger. So this is looking really nice, that this is potentially going to be good support. Let's see how that goes. So here we do have a bit of a mess. It's gone below. So momentum is definitely gone down. And the green and the blue and the yellow is down. So downward pressure is definitely still there. Let's go to the 8 hour. 8 hour. The RSI is almost overextended. And so this is almost potentially going to give us a bit of a turnaround. Let's look at the 4 hour. The 4 hours are giving us a green candlestick, a hammer. So what we want to see is, we want to see the next, so this is 2 hours to go for this candle to close. And then we want to see the next candle after that on the 4 hour to have some confidence. At this point, that is a good sign, but we just got to see. The problem we have is that this level is going to act like resistance now. All right, so we've broken down a level where it's going to act like resistance, and I can't see it bouncing up. I think we're going to see a bit of sideways motion here, and then we'll figure out if it's going to go be a bear flag or a reversal of some sort. So if it's a bear flag, then the head and shoulders definitely works. It could be an ascending wedge like that. We'll see what happens in the short period come tomorrow. At this point, definitely on the 4 hour, it's overextended. We want to see, so we can see how this worked out on the 4 hour and the exit. If we use this, that was our exit strategy right there. If you had that planned out with the RSI, that would have been a perfect exit spot. I wasn't keeping my eye on that. I was just keeping an eye on I was keeping my eye on this level here. So once that breaks, that dropped. So anyway, that's what we got at the moment. So can't really give you much as to what's this happening. All I can tell you is this level is pretty much important. If this doesn't hold, it's going to be hard. Let me see. From there to there, where's the volume? Okay. So potentially, if it could come up to here, the bounce, because that's where the most volume is, and the second volume profile is right there. So right there is the next volume profile, which is about 45,200. So it's got a few levels to go above. I don't think it will happen anytime soon. We want to just see how this plays out. But yeah, definitely that level there, 46k, is going to be an obstacle. And I would dare say that people will short it when it comes up to that. Short. And what we were saying before, we can have this line potentially. And we'll draw the second line just in case. And we'll see what behaviors come out. So we'll keep an eye on that. At this point, I would see definitely using the fib as well. If this was our fib level, yeah, the 0.382 is perfect. So that's going to be strong resistance. Definitely, we won't get. I don't think we'll pass that 0.5. There is that small possibility where we have the ABC there and then back down, and we could play that formation out, and this might just act as a support as this goes sideways for a while, and then potentially move that way. If the bulls jump in, this area could be actually, like I said, if we could hold this for a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks, this definitely could be an area of accumulation and then upwards. And that's all really dependent on a number of things. We just got to see, so we have a bit of a rejection there on the US dollar. This is live, it's a live chart, so it's actually happening right now. That's what we've got. I don't know what else I can say. Do you want me to look at any other charts or any questions? So let me look at YouTube to see if there's any people asking questions there as well. Okay, so I think I covered a fair bit. Looking at how long I've been on. Let's see. Right, let's have a look at Ethereum while we're at it. So this is the scenario, right? So potential. If you're familiar with this, could be an inverted bar structure, but this is what I got as another thing, a bit of a lesson, I suppose. This is my mindset. If you know a bit of price action, how it tends to play out. If you look at the big picture, and this is what we had, right? Actually, let me do pick. You'll see this on a lot of charts. You'll see a lot of charts do this. You have your uptrend. And basically, you can see, it's very simple. It's not a hard job. As soon as you break that level, what happens? This is the trend line. As soon as that happens, it's gone. All right? So this is a accelerated uptrend. And what happens after that is a downtrend, obviously. And in this case, we had this level here, which is leading trend. Yep. I'm talking about strategy here. This leading trend, you can see how perfect it played out. Found its resistance perfectly. pulls back. Second, so we had 1, 2, 3 touches. The fourth touch, it breaks through. Then we have, so this is the bump and run strategy. And we obviously had a formation here that roughly played its role along those lines. I didn't memorize this chart, didn't I? And it's always, there's always a bit of a dip. And that's usually from a fib extension. From there to there. You can see just overplaying its role, 1.618, just a bit over, but perfect. They play their role, these fib extensions. Then we have this another, so this is the bump from there to there. And then we have the uptrend. And what tends to happen is a dip back down again. And now we're looking for a formation of some sort. So I'm thinking potentially, this is the bullish perspective, what I have. This could be a channel or some sort of formation that we're going to keep an eye on. I'll get rid of these. And what it does is it's basically it's doing this. Makes sense? So if this plays out, this is going to go flying. So you just got to be patient. Check this out. If this comes down further, not to panic. This could be the level where there's support, as I said. But this structure was discussed by one of the mentors I have. I suppose I'll follow, Crypto Sniper. He's talked about it, and watch him and learn from him. That is another scenario that could potentially play out. But this method, it's usually not to the bottom. So if it comes down here, we're finished. That's going to be a bear market. It's not meant to come down that far. It's meant to, but this area should be enough. Right there, that should be enough. So if this was to come down, that should be enough. And if there's a trend that supports that, even better, because that gives it a business case. So if this was another, see how we got this and then up. If we do this, we can potentially play that role. So that's my theory. I'm going to keep an eye on that. Let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum is actually more bullish. It's leading the way. Didn't quite make it, so that's the all-time high. We just fell short of that, so that's pretty good, right? Let's get in close. With Ethereum, you can see when it does pull back, it's ugly, but you can see the confluence that this level is support. And if we lose this level, I think it's gonna drop much more. The next level is pretty much around here. Let's see here. I think that'll be the next level. And so let's put our fib levels on that. Okay, so that's the 0.618. That's why it's holding it up a bit. And yeah, maybe you can say that. That's the band that will potentially play out. This does look like it doesn't actually look like a head and shoulders because the right side is a bit too big. So what we just want to see is what it does. So we had this line it's broken, so the trend's broken as well. Didn't play that. So here before he played the support, you can see resistance, and then there's a support, and this is just break down below it. If it goes back up, that'll be nice. That's what we want to look for. That's what I got for Ethereum at the moment. Otherwise, it could just come down here and find support, and this could be that line that could find support on along these fib level. So, and from a what do you call it? From an Ethereum Bitcoin perspective, I remember flipping it on the weekend. It's actually still all right, isn't it? So actually, I'll pick out BTC USD on Polynex. Polynex has the history. What is it? T. Here we go. So Polynex has a lot of history of Ethereum. Ah, bugger. Suppose after. So if we look on the weekly chart, so you can see Polynex. I'm sorry, on the weekly, we're pretty good. Let's see. All right, there you go. So strong support level on that fib. Historically, that played its role. So we're going to keep an eye on that and keep using it. If it comes down, we'll use it as support. This overperformed. Nice. So I think it can potentially go and back up like that. While we have from swing low to swing high. I'll reverse that. Okay. So that's going to be a resistance right there. So we've got support on the 0.382 right there. So if you look at this, that's our range, really. And if Bitcoin has a bit of a low, basically that's what it can do. So I think it might hold this. We'll need to check it out. But if it loses that, it's going to go to the bottom there. Or you might, for the short term, find this as support right there. And then back up. So I do see Ethereum dropping because this is a weekly chart. And 2 weekly bearish candles, I think they'll continue going down. Not sure what this line is. So if we look on the daily, yeah, so let's see what happens there. But I think it's definitely it's found support. Now the question is it going to so yeah, I can't see what it's going to do. Let's see what the indicators show us. Yeah, it's definitely downward momentum with the RSI, the MACD. It's definitely going to keep going down, I think. I don't think this line's going to do any good for it. For the time being, I'll just leave it there. But the MACD is definitely pulling down on the daily. And this is all down, so there's no rush for it to turn up anytime. So I wouldn't be looking at Ethereum anytime soon to outperform Bitcoin. And so last thing, let's look at 2 charts. Bitcoin dominance. No, that's not what I wanted. So you can see how I had this RSI as a reference point and the MACD crossing over. I did say to the group that once this broke out and it's going up, I did say to the group that the alt's going to cop a beating, and definitely that's what's happening. I do have this level, and this week's already shown that it's going to be a resistance. So this is currently acting as resistance. Let's just make that yellow. So this level is acting as resistance. That's just because that was support there. I'm using that. And then obviously this level here could be. So what I'm thinking is it's going to find resistance and then keep going down and make maybe your third bottom. And then I think what will happen, in my opinion, this could be where Bitcoin hits 60 or goes above 55k maybe and starts to turn bullish. And when Bitcoin starts breaking a key level of resistance, it's going to fly. And that's when I think the alt's going to cop a beating. And very much that was when Bitcoin was doing a big run. People should have stuck with Bitcoin in the beginning of that big run. And there's obviously stages where you look at it. So my thinking is eventually come there. So this is a double W bottom. And if it does a double bottom like that, it definitely get over your alts. We want to see this go up and start coming down. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. But at the moment, the dominance is definitely the momentum is definitely with Bitcoin with this RSI. So RSI hasn't actually passed 50%. It's right on this line. That's my 50% level. So that is, I think it will break it based on this wedge formation. So I think Bitcoin dominance is still going to go up. So if Bitcoin dominance is still going to go up, does that mean Bitcoin is going to stop dropping? Still drop a bit? Don't know. I don't think it's going to go up quick. I think it's going to just go up slowly. Anyway, that's a good one to keep an eye on. And let's look at the total market cap. That's not good. So the total market cap is oversold on the RSI. So you can see how this line was holding. Yeah, so that came back right below it. So that's not a good thing. Yeah, that's not good. But it's pretty much oversold. So at a key level. So we might just see some support there. Nothing that it's going to help you trade at this point. It's just enough to know what to look for. And that was my goal. Hopefully that helped you out. And if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. I think most people got their answers. And here's the last part. Let me do a plugin. Okay. This is the community that if you haven't joined, you can join the free community there. And what I have, I'm going to post that. My reports on Bitcoin. So it's a service. Copy the text. And basically, if you join this, it's a subscription. And basically what I do is provide reports on Bitcoin and pretty much just focus on Bitcoin on that one. So if you join this level, it's $10 a month. You get updates on what Bitcoin is doing, short term, long term, and those are interested can join that bot. And what you do is you get reports on Bitcoin from on-chain data from what I just showed you now, and hey, have a look at it. Might help you out. And so that's it for me now. What I'll do is in my channel, I think, where is it? Here, I posted this so you can have a look at what I did 2 days ago. I think it is. You can have a look at that video. Interested? Forecasted what was going on and what was to take place. So far, so good. Just a bit of evidence for my workmanship. I'll leave it at that. I appreciate you joining me. Hopefully this is not so stressful, you guys. Relax. It is a bull market. It's good to make those opportunities when they are there. So if you haven't sold, do not sell now. Wait for the bounce. It's oversold. And look for those areas where I think it might go sideways. But clearly I've shown you where those key levels are. And if it drops below those key levels, then sell. Otherwise, just hold on. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining. I'll talk to you soon.